the PhD Mommy's Journey podcast, a podcast for those who want to actually enjoy life. I'm your host, Bree. I'm your bestie who also happens to be your number one fan. I am an educator, scientific researcher, and qualitative storyteller who's obsessed with science and dedicated to equipping you with valuable and useful tools along your journey of discovering, developing, and designing your delimited potential. I believe you have a unique and special gift the world needs to experience, and I am here to help you discover and develop it. I am simply here to help you understand one thing. You have exactly the tools you need to create a more purposeful and meaningful life that is rich and fulfilling on your terms. A life that enables you to truly enjoy it. This is the sixth episode of the series Unf Yourself by Gary Bishop. On the previous episode, I spoke about the importance of embracing the uncertainties of life. Also, I talked about the importance of understanding that life happens to everyone. As we all know, life is so full of ups and downs. Well, we need to simply accept it. We all experience good things. We all experience bad things. We all have experienced really painful things. That's life. It's never going to change. Here's a question. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to be a victim of your circumstances? Or are you going to be the victor of the battle? More importantly, who are you? Before you understand or try to answer that question, I would like to talk about a term we call identity. Identity is the distinguishing characteristic or the personality of an individual. It's also considered to be the cognition of being the same with something that is described or asserted. Identity is a key component in the human experience because it constitutes your recognition of your value. This value that you and I both have defines and shapes our perception and our sense of self. It's determined by our memories, experiences, relationships, religious beliefs, gender identity, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, and the list continues to go on. You see, identity encompasses all of us, and it's a reflection of who we are. The concept of human identity has been studied for thousands of years. They use language, objects, artifacts, things we use today, but they use those to represent and confirm their own identity. Now, you probably wonder, okay, so I know what identity is, but how do we actually get identity? There's something called the identity development theory. And it basically says that when we develop our identity, we have a sense of understanding the world that we live in. Now, identity is usually formed and developed during a very important stage in adolescence. Adolescence ranges from the ages of 12 to 18. And so that's about the middle school to high school years. Now, during this time, our identity, it helps to create a sense of self. And this sense of self is based on past experiences. It's based on our values. It's based on our perceptions, our race, our socioeconomic status, basically the things I spoke about earlier. Now, here's a huge problem. There are a lot of people in this world who have not yet established a well-developed sense of identity. They have something we call identity confusion. Now, not only do these people lack clarity in whom they are, they don't even understand their role in society. Now, you may wonder, why does that matter? Well, remember, we all have a special and unique gift that the world needs to experience. If you do not know who you are, how can the world experience you? You are not your thoughts. Your mind is a tool. Now, this tool can be used to propel you into these new directions, into this beautiful new life, or it can be a prison that keeps you in bondage. Here's the reality most people don't really want to acknowledge. You're not special. Now, you're not special because you're not the only person who goes through things. You're not the only person who has negative experiences. You're not the only person who's ever endured some type of hardship. In fact, there are so many people that are fighting everyday battles that are a lot worse off than you are. How many times have you heard, or maybe somebody told you about a friend who was going through something and you never knew? I remember I had a friend who unalived themselves. I never saw that coming. A lot of people face battles. Sometimes we have to stop thinking that it's simply about us. Life is hard. Life is tragic. Life is easy, and life can also be beautiful. Life is always going to be full of ups and downs. It's like this roller coaster. We endure pain. We go through heartaches. We go through breakups and trials. That's just simply life. You can either cry about it or you can do something about it. You probably wonder, okay, why is this important? I'll tell you. If you actually, and I mean, if you actually really truly want to enjoy a life that you love, you have to just do that. You have to understand that in order to enjoy a life that you love, you simply have to enjoy a life that you love. There's no gimmick about it. There's no hack. There's no science behind it. You just have to literally train your brain to say, okay, I'm going to enjoy life now. Like, that's it. A lot of people try to come up with these complex, step by step processes. And of course, there are steps that are included in order to retrain your brain. However, if you really want to actually have a good life, you simply just have to have a good life. Now, a lot of people who were successful, there's one thing that makes them stand out compared to just ordinary people. They become disciplined. And self-discipline is a topic that a lot of people do not like to talk about because, who really wants to be disciplined? But if you think about it, the people who are disciplined are the people who are successful. So if you want to live a successful life, if you want to be the baddest person walking, you got to be disciplined. Another thing is successful people, they are disciplined, especially of their emotions. Now, I'm not going to say they never experience hardships. They never experience, instances of slightly wondering if they can do it or being afraid. Instead, they understand that hardships are always going to be a part of life. So instead of sitting there and allowing themselves to self-sabotage and woe is me, they just continue to keep going. They ignore the little things. They ignore the big things. They acknowledge the things that happen, but they just continue to keep moving forward. Now, if you think about the brain, think about it as this little area where things are just constantly swarming back and forth. You have a bunch of positive self-talk and you have a bunch of negative self-talk. Eventually, there might be a negative self-talk that's going to come and boop, touch the mind. You can either attach yourself onto that negative self-talk or you can just brush by it, ignore it, and wait for that positive self-talk to come through. It's up to you because if you really want to have a better life, you have to start behaving in that way to have a better life. When you do things and actually do things, it gets done. Now, one way that I think is so interesting about our mind is that our mind is like a computer program. It's the part that you can't see, but you know that it's there. Now, the mind, it has one job, and that's to receive this input and feedback. And it does it because it wants to keep you stable and it wants to keep you secure. Your mind is your best friend, but your mind can also be your worst enemy. Your mind is not your brain. In fact, your mind is the energy. It's the energy, it's the experiences, and it's also the perception of those experiences. Your mind is not just found in your brain or near your brain, it extends beyond your soul, it extends beyond your body. It's going to use the brain, and the brain is going to respond to it, but it's not necessarily your brain. Now, things such as like paying attention, your perception, Your logic and reasoning, your memory, coordination, they all show some type of cognitive process. And those are all controlled by your mind. So then you probably wonder, okay, so if my mind does this, what does my brain do? Now, your brain is amazing because it's very plastic. In neurobiology, they call it neuroplasticity. And basically, what it means is that your brain has the ability to change the structure, and it changes the structure simply by the way how you think, which is controlled by your mind. So remember, your mind is how you experience life, and it's separate from your brain. But those experiences and those perceptions and that way of thought can actually change the shape and the structure of your brain. Now, the mind is really powerful because the most powerful thing that one has is their thoughts. Why would your thoughts be so powerful? Your thoughts are really powerful because they contain energy. Now, these forms of energy eventually will take form and create realities. What you think about is who you are, and who you are is who you become. Now, you probably have heard a lot about the subconscious mind or the conscious mind, and those terms are good, but I never really understood what it meant until I actually researched it myself and I tried to get more understanding on it. How exactly does my mind work and how can I help my mind help me? So, one thing I learned about the subconscious mind is it's super, super important. When I was in undergrad, I did biology and I did a little bit of psychology. We talked about the subconscious and the conscious mind, but we really didn't go into detail about it. I think the subconscious mind is an area that many, many, many psychologists and even biologists they really need to explore, especially in the undergrad level. And that's because 95% of our actions are actually controlled by our subconscious. So 95% of your day-to-day activities you are doing without even thinking. You're doing it by habit, you're doing it by your perception, and you just continue to think without even thinking. Your subconscious mind is really interesting because it records everything. It is always awake, it's always alert 24/7. Now, like I told you, it's built on habit. So whenever you do things, it becomes second nature and how you do things without even realizing it. That's because of your subconscious mind. Now, your subconscious mind is really, really cool because it can speak to you in your dreams, but it doesn't have any verbal language. And I find that so interesting because there's so many times where you feel as if something is speaking to you, but then you don't really actually hear it. It's that gut feeling or the dream or whatever it is, and you wake up and you're like, wow, but you don't even really remember. That's your subconscious actually speaking to you. Now, your subconscious mind is going to take everything literally. And this is so important, especially if you are someone who has a lot of negative self talk. For example, I never realized, but every time I would make a mistake, and it would just be little things like accidentally dropping a spoon on the floor or accidentally forgetting to lock, my car door, I would say, oh, I'm so stupid. And I started picking up on that and I realized, oh, wow, I say that a lot. So I learned how to train myself not to say that by simply not saying that. And I would say it took about 2 to 3 weeks, and I don't even say it anymore. Anytime that I may forget to do something, which surprisingly actually happens a lot less now that I've stopped saying, "Ugh, I'm so stupid." Sometimes when I feel like saying that, I'll just say, oh, you're so funny, Bree. And so I try to reprogram my brain by having more positive self talk. And I say it out loud because my brain literally takes everything literal. Now, your subconscious mind is not logical. It is not logical at all because if you think about it, how many times have you told yourself, that person over there looks so attractive, but I am so afraid to talk to them? They are going to laugh in my face and they're just going to throw all of these tomatoes at me. And when I walk back, people are going to be laughing. That's illogical. That's irrational. I don't think that that would actually happen, right? And so your mind will play this scenario in your head and you won't even go talk to that person. But who's to say that person had been looking at you as well and saying exactly the same thing? Now, your subconscious mind is also the feeling mind. I'm pretty sure you've heard of the little joke that a lot of people like to say: we think with our emotions, we don't think logically. Your subconscious mind, 95% of what you do is based off of emotion, is based off of feelings. Now, here's the kicker: your subconscious mind is 1 million times more powerful than your conscious mind. I found that to be wow, because number one, this happens 95% in our day to day activities. So that means only 5% of your conscious mind, which is what you choose to pay attention to, is not really going to make a big impact, but it does. Your conscious mind is what you decide to pay attention to. It's not always going to agree with your subconscious mind. You're going to get this sense of identity crisis whenever your conscious mind and your subconscious mind get in conflict with one another. And that is where the problem lies. When you have this conflict between your conscious and your subconscious mind, there is going to be a lot of resistance. That's the wall that a lot of people face, and they turn back around and never actually enjoy their life. They never achieve their goals. They never really do anything. Now, because your identity, which is formed from your thoughts and your feelings, AKA your subconscious mind, is super important for the behaviors and the emotions and the actions that we do. One thing that we as humans need to do is that we need to create a sense of belonging. And when you establish a sense of belonging, that means that you feel like you are important, that you're valued, that you're appreciated, that everybody enjoys having you around. And that's really, really, really important, especially if you are a mom, or if you are a student, or if you are just a simply human being. Everyone is important. Everyone needs a community, and everyone needs to have an identity. So you need to know exactly who you are. When you have a sense of belonging, you can control your mind a lot better. When you control your mind, you can control your emotions. When you can control your emotions, whenever you're faced with issues and your subconscious and your conscious are at battle, you keep going and you become successful. When you become successful, you start to enjoy life. So, in order to enjoy a life that you love, you have to control your emotions. You can also learn how to recognize those negative behaviors and change them whenever they start to arise. So, the first thing that I want you to say, and this is what I call a positive self assertion, and this is from the book, again, it's chapter 6, and it's actually the title, and it says, I am not my thoughts, I am what I do. I am not my thoughts. I am what I do. I am not my thoughts. I am what I do. Who are you? What do you do? What are your thoughts? Those are questions that you need to ask yourself in order to find out who you really are. If you want to live a life that is successful, if you want to live a life that is fulfilling, you have to be able to understand who you are and what type of life you actually want to live. Of course, you're not perfect, but you're super close. But here's the thing, you can change your life for the better by just simply thinking more positive. This is not to say that bad things will never happen. Instead, this is to say, think about the positive side of any type of obstacle. Why is this important? This is important because you need to build resilience. This is where you do. So, whenever your thoughts are telling you, we can't do this, you say, hey, we can do this. We will do this. We must do this. And then you do it. That's the resilience. There are going to be times when you feel so much resistance. You're going to be pushing and you're going to be chipping away and you're going to be punching and you're going to be crying and kicking and screaming. That's okay. Just keep going. You have to keep on moving forward if you really want to be successful. A lot of people say they want to be successful, but do they really? A lot of people, we tend to give up. Well, not we, because I'm trying to live a better life. A lot of people tend to give up because they're afraid. And you have to realize that in order to live a life that you want to live, you have to do what is beneficial for you. You have to say, look, feelings don't matter because they don't. Either you want to be successful or you don't. Either you want to live a better life or you don't. Either you want to be happier or you don't. It's like the binary code, yes or no. There's no lukewarm. Even the Bible talks about it. I'm not exactly sure what the verse or the chapter or anything like that is, but I just remember, you can't be lukewarm. You either have to be all in, hot, or not in, cold. It's okay, but just pick a side. Now, one reason why a lot of people tend to not really go all in is because they're selfish. They're selfish because it doesn't really feel good. They're only thinking about themselves. They're only thinking about their feelings. They're only thinking about how people will perceive them. And it's not about you. When you have a goal and when you have a dream, when you have a task, whatever it is that you need to accomplish, it has to be bigger than you. You can't stop at yourself because you're never going to accomplish those goals. You have to write a list. And that's what I do. I write down a list. Okay, my sister needs this. Okay, my best friend needs this. Okay, my mom needs this. I write a list down and I continue to write that list every single day. And that is my list that allows me to keep moving forward. And those people on that list, they are the foundation as to why I want to get better. They are the foundation. They are the rock. They have these expectations for me because they believe in what I want to do and they encourage me. They sacrifice for me. And if they're doing their part, I need to do mine as well. And so I really encourage you, if you really want to live a life that is more fulfilling, not just for yourself, but for the people around you. You might have kids, you might have parents, you might have friends, whatever it is, whomever it is, you need to think outside of yourself. You need to realize that it's not about you. You are not the most important thing. Your daughter is, your son is, your mom is, your dad is, whomever it could be. It could be your dog. If your dog is the most important individual to you, then that dog deserves to be treated with the most respect. That dog deserves to eat the best food. That dog deserves to sleep on the best dog bed. If it's your daughter deserves to go to the best school. If it's your son deserves to have the best parent that he can have. You owe it not only to you, but the people around you to do the best that you can do. So stop thinking about yourself. Stop being selfish. Stop thinking, oh, I can't do this. You can. You have to. You will. because you are not your thoughts. You are exactly what you do. So I have a little bit of homework for you guys. If you really and truthfully want to enjoy life, you have to learn how to reprogram yourself. And so I call it a little action plan. And there are 3 steps that are very simple, but they're very honest. It's going to take some time, and it really is going to break you down. The first step is you need to write an assessment. You need to describe your current situation, whatever it is, whatever domain. Describe how you are academically. Describe how you are financially, physically, spiritually, emotionally. Every single area in your life, just write it down. It's okay. It's not supposed to be perfect, but literally just write it down. Now, the second step is going to be create. I'll come up with a better word, but I'm calling it create. And so create is your utopian society, your utopian world, your perfect. If this is what it could be, I would like it to be this. So for example, let's say that your dream goal weight is 130 pounds. Write down 130 pounds. A lot of times they try to tell people, oh, it doesn't matter about the size or it doesn't matter about the number on the scale. It does, because you need to have something tangible. You need to have a number. Even if you don't reach that number, that's okay. But you need to have a number, a goal, something tangible that you can work towards. So for every single one of those same domains, write what is your perfect thing. If you want somebody who is 6 foot, write down you want somebody who is 6 foot. If you want to have a Mercedes GLC, write it down. Whatever it is that you want, write it down. Now, the cool thing is that it can change, of course. As you learn more and as you experience more life, you obviously will go ahead and change those things. But for now, just write it down. Write down what it is that you want in the different areas of your life. And then the last thing, which is prepare, because that's what we're going to do on the next episode. You're going to write down, how are you going to achieve it? What are the steps? We all know what we want, and we all know how to get there. We just need to write it down so that we can start training our brain to doing that. And that's what you're going to do. I believe that you can do it. And since I believe that you can do it, I know that you can do it. So remember, you are not your thoughts. You are so much more than your thoughts. You are what you do. This was episode 6, Action Plan. Remember, my goal is simple. I am here to help you discover the tools that you already have and to guide you in the direction that you already know to go to. You are the one who has to make the decision that you actually want to change. Don't worry, you got this. I believe in you. Thank you for listening to the PhD Mommy's Journey. Feel free to subscribe to this series wherever you listen to podcasts. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at the PhD Mom Life. You can also visit my website at www.thephdmommy.com. Go and blaze the new world that you have now created. You got this.